So, when you think about cyber attacks, what comes to mind? Probably hackers, right? Breaking through firewalls, stealing data, the usual stuff. But what if I told you the biggest threat to AI today doesn't come from breaking in, but from being invited right through the front door? Yeah, we're talking about attacks that don't target a system's locks, but its actual intelligence. How does that even work? Let's dive in.
You know, this quote absolutely hits the nail on the head. For years, security was all about building walls, a perimeter. But in the world of AI, the data it learns from is the new wall. And that means the most precious thing we have to protect, the real crown jewel, is the model's ability to think straight, its integrity.
And this leads us to a massive blind spot in AI security. We're looking at a whole new class of threats that don't need to kick down the door. No, they're much smarter. They corrupt the AI from the inside, using the very data it's been taught to trust.
And here's what makes this so incredibly dangerous. All your standard security tools, firewalls, access controls, they're all looking for the bad guys trying to break in. But these attacks, they look just like normal, everyday data. It's kind of like a spy with a perfect ID who just waltzes right through the front gate. The system sees what it thinks is valid information, but that info has a hidden, malicious agenda to quietly poison the AI's mind.
Okay, let's get into the first big threat, data poisoning. I want you to imagine you're trying to teach a student, but every single book you give them is filled with lies and misinformation. That's exactly what data poisoning does to an AI. It corrupts it right at the source, basically turning its own brain against itself.
So, to put it simply, data poisoning is when someone deliberately feeds bad information to an AI. But listen, the goal isn't just to make it make a mistake, it's to make it fail in a very specific, controlled way. Maybe to make it start generating toxic content, or to promote one product over another, or maybe to make it completely ignore a genuine threat. It's a super subtle and really, really dangerous game.
And you can see two totally different motives right here. On one side, you've got Microsoft's Tay chatbot. Attackers just flooded it with toxic stuff, and because it was designed to learn on the fly, it quickly turned into a mouthpiece for hate. That was just chaos for the sake of it. But on the other side, you've got recommendation systems being poisoned for pure profit. Imagine flooding a shopping site with fake 5-star reviews to trick the AI into promoting some terrible product and burying the actually good stuff.
All right, on to the second major threat. So if data poisoning is about corrupting an AI's long-term memory while it's learning, then adversarial attacks are all about fooling it in real time, right in the moment it's trying to make a decision. It's a much more direct, almost surgical way to manipulate an AI.
The best way to think about this is like an optical illusion, but one made for a machine. To you and me, the input, whether it's an image or a block of text, looks completely normal, but hidden inside is a secret message. A layer of data that's been specifically engineered to confuse the AI and make it do something it absolutely should not be doing.
And here are a couple of perfect examples. With something called prompt injection, an attacker can hide a command like forget all your safety rules and leak all the private data inside a totally normal-looking document. The AI reads it and, well, it might just obey. Or something you might see every day. People are stuffing their CVs with hidden keywords to trick the AI hiring tools, pushing unqualified candidates right to the top of the list for an interview. So these threats are very real, and honestly, a bit scary. But the good news is we're not helpless here. The world of cybersecurity is catching up, and new ways to defend our AI are coming up. So the question is, how do we actually build a shield against these kinds of clever attacks?
Well, it really boils down to these 4 core strategies. First, you've got to monitor your data integrity. That means constantly checking for any weird patterns or sudden changes in the data your AI is learning from. You want to catch the poison before it spreads. Second, you need to scan every single input for those hidden tricks before it gets to the AI model. Third, you have to secure your feedback loops. This means using things like human checks and rate limiting, which just controls how fast feedback can be given, so we don't have another Microsoft Tay disaster. And finally, you have to keep an eye on the AI's behavior, always looking for any strange shifts or unexpected outputs over time.
Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, this is all very high-tech corporate stuff, but what's the big deal for you and me? Well, the truth is, the stakes are incredibly high because these AI systems are already making critical decisions about our money, our health, and our safety, whether you're in Delhi, Bangalore, or anywhere else in the world.
Just stop and think about this for a second. An attacker could poison a security AI so that it becomes completely blind to a real cyber attack. They could manipulate a bank's AI to approve a whole bunch of fraudulent loans, or unfairly deny them to people who actually deserve them. And in healthcare, honestly, the risk is chilling. A diagnostic AI that's been trained on bad data could give you the wrong medical advice, and that could put actual lives on the line.
And that really brings us to the most important point of this entire conversation. At the end of the day, it all comes down to one simple truth. An AI, no matter how powerful or intelligent it seems, is only as good and as honest as the data we feed it. It doesn't have its own moral compass. It only knows what it's been taught.
So I'll leave you with a question you should ask yourself every time you use an AI-powered system, whether it's your newsfeed, your banking app, or even Google Maps. Are you really sure it's learning the truth, or has it been taught to believe someone else's lie?